There is a house covered in vines, a very old house indeed, all yellow stone, with an octagonal tower at one corner. I would say it had a garden, but it did not so much have a garden as it was part of a garden, or rather, stranger still, it grew in a garden. For where the garden ended and the house began could scarce be determined upon even the most scrupulous of inspections. The glass was thick and cross-gartered with iron, and the door, which sat in a deep alcove at the front of the house, was arched and came to a point in the middle. It was made from some dark and heavy wood, and in the very center of that looming portal sat a lithe and slender beast of gold, tightly coiled while casting a watchful gaze upon the tangled mass of web-like branches with its ruby eye, burning cold like a sleeping coal. The garden itself, which was circumvented by a gate of the daintiest iron threads, giving the general impression more of a veil than a gate, was long and ponderous, so that it was far greater in length to and from the dark and morose front door and the back yard than out from the sides of the house. It showed signs of having been conceived in the Victorian fashion, but had grown and bound, wound itself I'm not sure what that word is. Wound itself about beyond its prescribed borders into a romantic, natural untidiness, and then, from years of sitting beneath the octagonal tower at the corner and the adamantine front door, and most incalculable of all, the gaze of the ruby eye, deepened into a profound Gothicness, with all of that inscrutable era's dark passages and corridors, lofty buttresses and stained alcoves, and sharp lacerations of bright and unbearable light. Never did a garden dress so aptly from season to season, from its still white death in winter, through the green and budding spring of a new infancy, and summer with all of its pink and white lace ornaments, to the lingering dusk of a red and dimly burning autumn. No one in the village, which was known as the March, could remember anyone ever living there. Indeed, it was difficult to say whether or not anyone had ever lived there. For the popular belief was that it had been built of the behest of a lesser but considerably wealthy viscount for his sickly wife as a summer home, but that the lady had most unfortunately perished away before it was ever used. Because of this certain barrenness of human inhabitants, the building became a kind of person of its own, and was adopted by the people of the March as a somewhat aloof and well-bred neighbor of equal, if not in some estimations higher, status to the oldest and most respectable families in the area. They called it Old Benjamin, and thus he sat in quiet meditation like a Buddhist Lama or holy man high atop some snow-capped Tibetan mountain, overlooking the village in the valley below, inexplicably connected to them, and yet somehow above it all, on the pathway to Bodhisattva. And thus the two sat there, Old Benjamin and the March, one and the same and yet totally apart. When the station wagon pulled up to the delicate iron gate with an equally delicately balancing tower of shabby orange leather luggage, tied onto the roof of the car like some gaudily over-prepared European adventurer who has painstakingly taken every considerable precautionary item he could stuff into his rucksack, while simultaneously forgetting to hire a Sherpa. The people of the march were quite taken aback, and it did not take long before the news that a family from further on down south had bought the building from the late Viscount's estate, and had just arrived with the to them unfathomable idea of taking up residence. This unexpected and shocking turn of events had created quite the stir in the village, culminating in an impromptu town council to be called, which contained a constant volley of almost panicked questions, followed up by very much less in number, vague and unsatisfactory answers. Old Benjamin, however, did not seem in the least surprised by the appearance of the station wagon and the shabby orange leather luggage, as if he had foreseen it all and, after a long and thoughtful silence, was about to speak his secrets to the eager pilgrims from a far-off land.